So let me take you on a little bit of a journey back in time. We're gonna go back 4 years ago, and we're gonna go to probably one of the greatest places that I know, New Jersey, Cal Austin. And New Jersey is one of the greatest places because it's home of my wife's business called NJ Steps. Let me tell you a little bit about NJ Steps. NJ Steps is a private practice, speech therapy practice in New Jersey. My wife was running this business, and it was located in a small pediatric office. She was one therapist working there, and her business was growing pretty quickly. And as her business grew, she said, I have this aspiration. I want to expand my business and operations. And the idea she had to pay off on that aspiration was, why don't I move to a much bigger space that will allow me to spread out and expand this business? This sounds pretty mundane, right? It's like, move to a new space. Yeah, it does, just do that. But there was a lot of uncertainty. There was a lot of personal risk to make that move. And when there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of risk, and it can be paralyzing. It could be really hard to make that decision. Well, she made the decision she was going to do it. And sure enough, within a couple of weeks, an office popped up that looked like it would be a great fit. She checked it out and said, this looks great, but the landlord came with one really important condition, and that was this. She had to make a decision to rent or not to rent within a few days. She had until the end of the week, or else the deal was off the table. Now, she came to me and said, well, what should I do? What she was really saying was, should I do it or not do it? Is it a go, no-go decision? And I said to her, it's not that simple. I said, hey, baby, listen, you have to test before you invest. I really did say that. And I'm really married still to the same person. So I said that, and I told her we should take a learner's mindset. Let's try that out. And she didn't know what that meant, but what it really meant was we're going to use this tool called assumption screening. Some people might be familiar with it. It's a pretty intuitive technique, but it was so powerful. I want to bring it to life by just kind of building out for you what we actually did. So the first part of assumption screening is asking the question, what must hold true for this idea to work, for it to be successful? So we started to list out all the different assumptions. So in this case, traveling to the office would be convenient for clients, that the space would allow for expansion, which was, at the end of the day, her primary goal. Rent would be stable for the foreseeable future. If it skyrocketed after a year, that would be prohibitive. Also, that would be accessible for small children, because after all, we're dealing with a pediatric population. That was her primary population, kids 1 year and up. And it had to be accessible, easy for young kids. And then last but not least, that it would require only modest renovations, because that could be prohibitive as well. Now, in practice, there were a few more assumptions in this, but 5 could be pretty powerful. You don't need to have hundreds, but we had 5 pretty important assumptions. And from these, we asked the next question, which was, of these assumptions, which ones would have the biggest impact? Or in other words, what would keep you up at night? What would effectively shut down your business if it didn't work out? So we went through this, and pretty quickly, she discovered that many of them had a high impact. So we filtered out one, the renovation one, because she reckoned that by keeping in that small office for a short time while renovating wouldn't be prohibitive to this decision. So we moved them forward, and then we asked one more really important question, which was, how uncertain are these assumptions? How much confidence do you have in what we're assuming here? And as we went through it bit by bit, the location she felt pretty confident is only a few miles away. It wouldn't be an inhibitor for people to come to a different office a few miles away. The office space was relatively similar in dimension and size as comparable offices that were much bigger, so she felt good about that. And there was a contract already that was sketched out, so we felt pretty good about the rent situation. What we didn't feel so confident in at all was this last one, that the office would be easily accessible. Let me tell you why. This office was located on the second floor of a building that had no elevator. And there was literally a double set of stairs. Now, for you and me, we might look at it and say, yeah, who cares? Let's walk up the stairs, get extra Fitbit steps. But for small children, that could be a problem. Particularly if you're a parent, anyone here has small children, try walking up the stairs with 1, 2 small kids, it can be absolutely a nightmare. So she was not sure if that would be a major deterrent. So based on that, we had what we call a critical assumption, what we needed to test and learn about. And based on that, we then converted this into a learning objective to clearly state for ourselves that it's not just an assumption, it's a problem that we need to understand and solve for to be able to get clarity on this idea. So we turned it into a learning objective, which was to determine if the location on the second floor would be a deterrent for future customers or current customers to keep coming back. That's what we needed to learn. So now, with this learning objective in mind, we can take a true learner's mindset. We're ready to actually start creating some really cool experiments. But I'm not going to tell you what we did just yet.